Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Fibromyalgia Association of Canada's Fibro Chat with Trudy and Lynn. Today, we're going to wrap up Self Start September and discuss self-management when you have fibromyalgia. So my name is Trudy Flynn. I am the chair of the board of directors of Fibromyalgia Association Canada. And I'm going to keep my comments brief so we can get right to our chat. And Lynn, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So I would like, though, to start by acknowledging that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Indigenous peoples across Canada, including First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. We honor their enduring connection to the land and are committed to fostering respectful and meaningful relationships with all Indigenous communities. I acknowledge and give thanks to the land on which we live, work, and play, to the people who have cared for it. I am speaking to you from Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. In Nova Scotia, we are all treaty people. And as you notice, I'm wearing my orange shirt. And yes, yesterday was Orange Shirt Day. But today, October the 1st, is Treaty Day in Nova Scotia, and it marks the beginning of Mi'kmaq History Month. I want to apologize for any noise that you may hear. I am actually sitting in the middle of a Mi'kmaq land, Kejimkujik National Park, and this was a planned vacation many weeks ago, but unfortunately, because of forest fires, it had to get delayed. But here we are today, up and ready to go. So there may be a lag in my internet because I'm operating on a generator. So Lynn is going to make any covering that I have to do. So Lynn, you go right ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Cooper. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I am a person with lived experience with work injury, chronic pain, which includes fibromyalgia for more than 30 years. And I'm coming to you from the territories of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples in Ontario, Canada. I have been a longtime advocate for improved pain management, awareness of fibromyalgia, inclusion of people with lived experience in everything about us, policy making, changes to our healthcare systems. And as many of you will remember, I'm on the development team of the Power Over Pain portal for pain management, which is free and online to anyone. And so I'm really thrilled, Trudy, to be back with you again. And we're talking about moving forward, self-management, changes in shifting in attitude in order to move forward. And we wanted to really key in on three major coping strategies, which are planning, pacing, and prioritizing. And this is really coming on the heels of your Fresh Start September, which I completely support. I think September is a great time to take a look at what has been happening in your life and how you want to move forward. The reason that it resonates with me is my family of origin and many important people around me as a younger person was involved in education. And so September marked the beginning of life as we knew it in our house. And so I always think of September as fresh start. And I always look at what's coming up for me in the fall and what I need to be doing, what I need to be planning and prioritizing, that kind of thing to get through those fall months. So I was really thrilled to hear that you were handling that. And you were telling me on another conversation that your fresh start really focused in on self-management. Can you fill in a little bit about that?
Sure, as someone who's had fibromyalgia for over 30 years, and I just say 30, I stopped counting once it hit there. So I have realized that with fibromyalgia, you get diagnosed, and some people um, think that doctors are going to be able to help them and cure them or treat them. And so, self-management to me is once you get diagnosed, learning how to manage your own fibromyalgia without your doctor. I don't count on my doctor for my fibromyalgia management because I've tried some of the medications, and unfortunately the side effects were stronger than the relief they gave me. So I
Mhm.
am totally dependent on self-management. So I I think maybe if there was something wrong with me and I couldn't figure out, is this by having a heart attack or is this costochondritis? I might talk to my doctor, but for the most part, I've learned the hard way that it's on you, like you can decide to give up or you can decide that you're not and that you can figure out a way. And just so everybody knows, it's different for everybody. So what works for me doesn't work for my daughter, doesn't work for my grandson, who both have fibromyalgia. So you have to figure out your very own management plan. And when we had Dr. Furland last week with the round table, she stressed that she diagnoses fibromyalgia and she gives suggestions, but it's basically you have to figure out what works for you. And I'll go back to you, Lynn. It's as simple as something like I can't do Tai Chi because I can't remember the steps, but I can do Qigong because it's simpler and more repetitive. So, Qigong doesn't. Qigong works for me to help me
Mhm.
relax, but Tai Chi doesn't because I treat it like, oh my goodness, what's the next step? How am I going to remember how to do this? And it becomes more of a stressor. It's as simple as that, like black and white, like some people can do that, other people can't do that. So, how
Mhm.
about you? What do you do?
Well, I hear what you're saying about having to take the responsibility for managing your fibromyalgia um, yourself. I have a slightly different take on that. Um, when I developed persistent pain, I started to look at who around me could help me. There were some folks that didn't believe that I had fibromyalgia, and that it could be as bad as I was saying to them. And so those people were in my life, but I moved them a little to the side and I started thinking about, okay, who's on my team? Who's on my management team? So my family and friends who I interact with all the time, they were the first people on my list. The next folks down were the healthcare providers, including my family doctor, with whom I work to have a good relationship. And I do reach out to her for different things. I Over the time, I have learned to manage my fibromyalgia symptoms myself. So that's where the the self-management comes in. But I think that there can be um, a connection there, that we keep the healthcare provider in mind um, i- for a consult, or they may know other things that we might we might be able to try. And as you said, it works differently for different people. So for me, that assembling that team of those individuals really made a difference for me. And when we think about our healthcare providers, we're only in their offices, be it your family doctor or a physiotherapist or a psychologist. You're only in those offices for a short period of time, and hopefully you come home with something that you can help to incorporate into your plan. But I work my management plan every single day. And like you said, mine's different than yours. The one
Mhm.
commonality I think we have is, or two, is relying on our family and our friends, and also exercise. And then probably there are other things too. Um, but the one thing I struggled with back in the day was the way I thought about fibromyalgia. Because the healthcare provider who diagnosed me many years ago said, Lynn, you should just, are you ready for this? You should just find someone to marry you and take care of you, because you will never work again. You're going to need to have someone take care of you for the rest of your life. Well, imagine hearing that from that very uh, archaic attitude from that doctor all those years ago. That isn't the case with healthcare providers now, who have a little more knowledge. So
Or
I,
are a little more careful.
yeah, so I was really impacted by that. And I found myself in a hopeless, helpless kind of frame of mind. And it took a while and some interactions with a psychologist to start shifting my attitude and to start finding ways to take my personal power back.
Um,
Um, and I was afraid to plan anything, because I was afraid that um, people would look down on me if I committed to something and then I didn't feel that I was able to make it. And so I heard the stigma that was all around me about fibro, and I internalized that stigma. It's called self-stigma. And I started to believe what people were saying to me. And so I stopped planning until I had an epiphany. And it was thanks to interaction with a psychologist. Then I started to take my personal power back and I started to plan.
so I must say that I include in self-management picking your team. Uh, it's not, and when I say uh, my doctor doesn't really like dealing with my fibromyalgia. So,
Yeah,
but
I hear
I
you.
do think that there's, it's interesting that you should mention a psychologist. So, even though I really, really bristle when this anyone suggests that fibromyalgia is a psychiatric condition, I do realize the value of psychologists and especially those who understand fibromyalgia. So I have listened to psychologists. I think they have great ways of helping you relax, great ways of looking at things different, reframing things. I think that, and I think that's what you're talking about, Lynn,
Yes,
is
yes,
reframing things. So, but
yes.
interestingly, my family, except for my immediate family, like my husband and my daughters, um, and their family, the rest of my family, I were very difficult to deal with. They still probably don't believe that I have fibromyalgia. So I found myself distancing, as hurtful as it was. I found myself distancing myself from them because of the negativity. I find any kind of stress, I really need to learn to deal with stress because stress really triggers me. And something else I include in self-management, which I'm not very good at. And yeah, I have been struggling. Actually, this week is the best I've felt in a long time since I had COVID in the spring, June, and I went into this major flare that I've never experienced before in all my years with fibromyalgia. And so I'm not sitting here to say I'm so great at this because I sucked at it. I'll tell you that. It
I
took
know
me
I
so
talked to
long.
you in the
Yeah,
summer.
it took
Yes,
me so long to get out of that anger because I have COVID because I mask everywhere I go. But anyway, yeah. But
blank happens.
yep. Anyway, so it was getting out of that flare because I had never really experienced a flare like that. I struggled, and it made me realize how important preparing in advance and having a flare plan is. And that's another thing that was discussed at that round table is that nobody can make your fibro plan or your flare plan for you. You have to do it yourself because, like even individualized, sometimes when I'm really, really sore and it triggers headaches or something like that, sometimes ice works. And then there's sometimes heat works. So it's like, it's not even bad enough that we're all different. Depending on what triggered you, what helps you may be different at different times too. So I plan to have
Yes.
ice packs and a heating pad. So, and I've learned that I learned this summer that I did not have a very good flare plan. And so I am in the process and living in a
Even
province
after,
I've been on fire all summer. I'm doing two things. I'm creating a go
yeah.
bag because we live in the middle of the woods, and I'm creating a flare plan that I have because I kept saying to people, "Do you remember what I did last time I was in a flare?" Because I don't
Mhm.
remember what I did.
Even after all these years, you're still learning.
Yes, yes.
Ha, me too. I've been dealing with, now I'm putting in air quotes, poor me. I was fortunate enough to have traveled in the last couple of weeks, and I was experiencing some jet lag. Wow. I pulled out some of those, what I call bad day coping strategies, and they served me. So I was really glad for my bad day strategies. So one of them of the strategies was, Lynn, it's a mindset. Lynn, give yourself some time, give yourself some space, because we can all be so hard on ourselves when we're having a fog day or a pain day or a low energy day or, heaven forbid, all of those things at the same time. So um, I invoked my planning, pacing, and prioritizing. So the most important thing this week, um, that's that begins now, is the work we're doing right now. I have other things after today later today and after today. But I took Monday and Tuesday. We're recording on Wednesday. I took Monday and Tuesday. I prioritized myself. I prioritized what I needed to do to help myself get through jet lag, and I paced through it. So I would do a little something in my day, and then I would sit down and rest or lay down and rest, but I didn't stay long. And then I would get back up again, and I paced very carefully because I prioritized to be here today, because the brain fog was more than usual.
Yeah.
And so um, we've covered a lot just in what we've talked about today. And I I think for me, over the years, there could have been many times when I would become overwhelmed with the issues of fibromyalgia and the other chronic pain that I experience. Would be, and at times, it could have been very easy to give up and actually overpace, meaning you slow down way too much. There is something called overpacing,
Yes.
and so it's always a good idea. That's why I really believe in the planning, pacing, prioritizing, because always in a day I'm checking in with myself. And at the beginning of it, it seems like it's work, which it is, because it's a thought process and you may not feel like thinking because of fibrofong, but it is absolutely necessary to move yourself forward. I know that. So I would look at what absolutely needed to be done, what I could shift to later, or what could be moved to another day, or what I could ask for help with if I wasn't feeling up to it. And pivoting is part of my life. Sometimes I pivot so much, I feel like I meet myself coming back. Um, so if I had to to talk with people about their pain management plan, their fibro management plan, it would be to incorporate the thinking about your team and bringing people on your team who can support you. And some people are on your team for, well, it's a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So I've got some lifers with me, thank goodness. And some people are there for a particular reason, and then they move in and out as you need them, like a healthcare provider. Um, and then invoking at least the 3 Ps, if not the 5 Ps. So 3 Ps, prioritizing, planning, and pacing. And then persistence is another one. And right now I forget what the fifth one is, but by the end of our chat, I'll tell you.
Do you know, Lynn, I never really thought of what you said. I actually wrote it down. Is overpacing. I think I overpaced this summer, but I have to say the hardest thing I dealt with this summer in this flare, which I couldn't decide, is this, like I do work with long COVID people, and so I'm thinking, oh, like am I still suffering the ill effects of COVID, or am I in a fibro flare? And I still don't know. You don't know, right? You don't know what you
Did
don't
it
know,
matter?
but yeah, and it didn't matter. And that's what happened. My daughter said to me, Mom, you're spending so much time trying to figure out, is this cold? Is this a flare? Just get on with your life, right? But the
Deal with it,
hardest thing
Mom.
for me, yeah, deal with it. I I had a hard time getting out of bed. Sure, I'm a morning person. I hop up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but then I'm in bed at 8:30 at night. So just because I don't stay up at night, but I couldn't get myself out of bed and I was waking up at 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and that's so out of whack for me. And so I think I screwed up with my circadian rhythms. And so I would think to myself, I've got to make sure I pace myself. So I canceled some meetings and I did this and that. And I ended up thinking, eventually, as I was starting to come out of this, I ended up thinking, I don't know if that I overpaced, but I also used it as an excuse to get out of things that I wasn't really looking forward to doing, right? And so I think I do know some people who tell me that they have realized they do that with their fibromyalgia as well. And but I like your use of the word overpacing, because until I started moving again and until I started getting back to my normal life and doing things with my family, um, and even myself, I I was overpacing. And I
Yeah,
never really thought of that. That's exactly what I was doing. I was
and
taking it too easy.
and we didn't talk as much as we normally would about different things that we're involved with together.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I noticed that. I
yeah.
noticed your absence, and I wondered. So I'm glad you're seeing that. One thing that you mentioned, that I think is really important to talk about is using uh, fibro as an excuse, or using any kind of a health issue as an excuse to get out of doing something you don't want to. I mean, that can be a slippery slope in our
Hmm.
thinking. Better, better to have that personal power and say, um, thank you for the invitation, or I realize that you're expecting me to do whatever it is. I'm not in a place where I would like to do that right now. Better to be honest about it, because it can be a real slippery slope. I
Yeah,
experienced that slippery slope and years ago, and I realized that it became easier and easier for me, um, not to be pushing myself forward to do things that even what that I wanted to do, because I would say, well, my fibro, um, and so it, we have to have a little board meeting with ourselves
well, it's all,
sometimes and decide what our motivation is,
yeah,
and um, we really have to think about what part is real about the fibro and what part is it something we're just working to avoid. Another thing, though, about planning and prioritizing that I think is important to talk about here, and that is when my foster daughter Anna was with me, she had a lot of events going on in elementary school, high school. She was with me for quite a while. And I remember there were a few events with the high school music where you would have to go and sit for 3.5 to 4 hours for their incredible music program. And Anna was involved in the band, so I wanted to support her. But because of my back injury and the fibromyalgia that ensued, there was no way that I was in for the marathon of the 3.5 to 4 hours. So I needed to prioritize Anna and Anna's event. So I planned to go. But what I did differently was I prioritized what was most important, and that was being there for Anna's 45 minutes of involvement. So that's what I did. I found out when that would be, and I let her know I would be there. And that's when I arrived at the event. I didn't have a front row seat. I didn't need one. She knew I was there, and I was at the back of the room, and I was able to be there and clap for her. I even recorded for someone else who couldn't be there the event. And then I left. So I paced it by only going for a certain length of time because I prioritized what I needed to be there for. And that event was in my planner. So that's how I did that. And everybody was happy, including me, because I got to be there. I didn't give it up. And so I think there are ways that we can think around our problems, our concerns about the length of time we might be involved, so we don't have to give up on the happy things in life.
Right. I really
You
do
know,
think mindset matters. I do.
yes.
And even I realized that I needed to change my mindset. And so I started listening to music I like, music that motivates me, and I started exercising more than I had been. And I started doing some qigong, which I hadn't done in months. And I think that I do, it just it was more uplifting than the, oh my God, I have to get out of this bed. That struggle. So,
Mhm.
and as I did more of that, which is my self-management, I found it less difficult to get out of bed. So now I'm back to waking up again at 6:30 and
Yeah.
except this morning, it was
Go
so
for
cold
it, won't
here
be
this
me.
morning. Was so cold here this morning. I was like, yeah, okay. It's October. So I rarely am out in an RV in October. So
Wow.
but whatever. It's beautiful here. So, and that's the thing. Like I have, it's my youngest daughter has fibromyalgia and she has these smile, and things like that. Mindset matters. Smile is a beautiful thing. She has quotes from Marilyn Monroe and different all over the place. So because
Mhm.
she needs to remind herself that mindset matters. So her screensaver says it, it's a Nemo who thinks he's a shark. So
Mhm.
it's I think that's huge in fibromyalgia, and it's a choice that you make. Like we talked about this when we were talking before everyone came on, was you decide, I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and you either have okay, what can I do to make this better so my quality of life is still good? And the people who say, I have fibromyalgia, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and I'm never going to enjoy my life again. And it's a struggle to switch from that mindset over. So it does matter how your doctor tells you you have fibromyalgia. And it does matter that they don't just leave you hanging, that they make you aware there are things you can do to help yourself live a better life. That matters. And so I think education for doctors is really, really important in our
I
condition
agree.
because how someone breaks news to you is huge. So I think they can be the switch that can either get you to, okay, I can manage this. And I think it's important for them to say right off the bat, this is not terminal and it is not damaging any of your organs or joints or muscles. It may feel like it is, but it isn't. And to me, when I was diagnosed, I'm a retired nurse, so I had a mom who had cancer at the age I was diagnosed. When they said, and I was so tired, and so I when I went in and they said it was fibromyalgia, I'm like, oh, that's good, you know? So
Mhm.
it mindset matters because I looked at what I thought it was. I thought I had cancer. So and it's, yeah, because she had at that age, her mother had it, my aunt had. And so I just hit that age and thought, this is what this is. This is why I'm so tired. As I've always been a very high energy person. So to lose my energy, I felt that it
That
was,
would have been scary.
yeah,
Would have
it
been
was scary.
scary.
So to me, you see, it's
Yeah.
how you weigh that, right? So
Yes.
to me, the
Yeah.
alternative was great.
And imagine for me if I had taken to heart
Yes,
what that
exactly.
doctor said to me back then, that my life was over basically, and that I would never do anything of any consequence. And I'm not sure what would have taken place in the pain space if I had, I'm a cog in a wheel in the pain space that maybe did something that helped to get pain awareness, pain management to where it is now. We all have something to offer. And I'm so thankful for that psychologist who helped me to reframe what I called chronic pain.
Hmm.
I don't call it chronic pain. I know I've mentioned this before. To me, it's persistent pain. It's persistent in my life, but I can be persistent in how I deal with it, how I move my life forward in spite of it, and how I recognize that there's a part of me that the chronic pain, the persistent pain can't get to, that there is a strong part of me that can hold fast and keep going forward. Some days faster than others, but still always moving forward. So, when I do the peer education, one of the last things I say to the folks is living well with chronic pain requires a shift in attitude, Trudy, and an adaptive lifestyle that acknowledge the pain, so put fibromyalgia in there, but are not ruled by the pain.
Yes.
So I am not ruled by the pain. I'm not ruled by fibromyalgia. I have figured out ways using um, trying out different self-help things, diet, exercise, sleep hygiene, medication when I need it, like Tylenol for or uh, a post-flight headache. And it wasn't funny, but I can laugh about it now. And all of these things, stress management reduction, box breathing, the
Yes.
simplest thing, box breathing, or just mindfulness, how important that can be for people. So there are so many different opportunities to explore without spending a lot of money, mind you, um, and incorporating those things in your life as management that you use.
We had a psychologist do a presentation last spring, I think, and she talked about um, not looking back. And I have a friend who actually has given, uh, actually gave it to my daughter for Christmas. It was, don't look back, you're not going that way. And I always think,
Yes,
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 I look
yes.
at it every day and think, no, I'm not, because I am a kind of person who thinks, so uh I I do run. Um haven't recently, but when I say recently, I mean the last couple of years. But at one time, I was doing that, and but it's the pacing, right, Lynn? So I'd run 30 seconds, I'd walk 30 seconds, I'd run 30 seconds, and you know what? I eventually got where I was going. But the
Mm,
point is, I always, as I got a little slower, or if my fibro flared up. And my daughter she used to run with me, and she used to always say to me, Mom, stop looking back at what you did, how fast
yeah,
you ran last time. Just be
yes.
happy you're able to do this. And I didn't appreciate that until I wasn't able to do that. So it's that don't look back where I used to be. Like I used to be able to run half marathons. So don't look
I
back
walked
at
them.
that. Now I'd be quite happy if I could run a kilometer. So, but the point is that you have to be happy where you are. And adapt to where you are because you're not going back there. So don't look back. You're not going there.
True, and do something every day that you enjoy. And
Yes.
it may not be the same thing, like that's part of management, of my management plan, my pain management plan. Do something every day that you enjoy. So if it's walking with my friend Pat, that's what it is. If it's calling someone who means a lot to me and we don't live in the same city, if it's going out for lunch once in a while, whatever it is, if it's listening to music, if it's playing music, all of these things, um, it's important because it gives you a brain break
Yes.
from your your fibro, your pain. It helps to restore that part of you that needs nourishment every day. And it can really shape your outlook on life. If I'm walking around grumble, 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 which I can do, then I, and if I catch myself at it, that's part of the prioritizing, checking in with yourself every day. If you find that things aren't, going the way you want, then just stop. Just stop for a moment and think about, okay, why am I continuing to plow forward on this course if if it's not working the way I would like it to be? So I try to shift. So that's what adapting is. I I've learned
Hmm.
to adapt my lifestyle because the lifestyle I had back when I was first injured all those years ago is not the lifestyle that I have now. The lifestyle that I had when I first developed fibromyalgia and was oppressed by everything about the fibromyalgia, was feeling hopeless and helpless, is not who I am now. Excuse me, I do look back from time to time to see where I am right now. And I find that helpful. And sometimes I just want to take those Lynn's from before and I want to grab a hold of them and I want to hug them and I want to say, listen, it's going to be okay. You are going to find your way forward step by step. Just take the step and try something. It's going to make a difference. Even if it doesn't work, at least you took the step and you've built some confidence to be able to take a step and to advocate for yourself and to be your best supporter. And so I would want to give those earlier Lynn's, a big hug and say, it's not going to be easy, but you're going to do it. So everybody who's listening, watching right now, think about that take those first few steps, look at all the options that are available to you for self-management that are free, evidence informed, and can involve some kind of joy. But keep the three in mind: planning, pacing, prioritizing. Don't give up on life. Don't give up.
You- Do you know, I always plan to do this, and I haven't done it yet, but I do plan to do this, is write a gratitude journal. I always think that when you say do something you enjoy every day, I always think that, and I've always been told that it's good, it's healthy to, at the end of the day, even if you just write one thing down you're grateful for, it
Mhm.
helps change your mindset. And then the next day, you might be able to find two or three. And I've never done that, but I do when I lay in bed at night, think about, what
Good
have
for
I
you.
accomplished today? But it's, I
That's
think
different.
oh, yeah, but I mean,
What you
accomplished, and I'm
accomplished.
grateful for that I was
Okay.
able to
Okay.
accomplish
Yeah.
that. But I do think it's important to do things like that. And I do think, I need to put my money where my mouth is and start doing things like that. Journaling is supposed to be, my oldest daughter, she swears by journaling. She said it really, really helps her to do that.
Mhm.
So she really places a lot of um, strength that she has gained from journaling. She's happy to do that every day. And she says that it's just what you were talking about, Lynn. It allows her to look back and say, if I could only have told myself back then, because she has PTSD, if I could only have told myself then that I'd get through this. So you know, it's important, I think, that to have that ability to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And now I don't do a gratitude journal. Tried, and I guess that's just not for me. But every night, Trudy, I say my thank yous because I feel so fortunate for some of those milestones in my life, those aha moments, Oprah's aha moments, that helped me to shift my thinking. Something else you and I had wanted to bring forward today, and I just looked over here at my notes. We wanted to talk about um, at one point, person could look at fibromyalgia and talk about themselves as being sick.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, that is a personal choice, but it isn't my choice. So people would say to me, "Oh, well, Lynn, you're sick. You're sick, you're sick, you're sick." And I would say, I have chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia. And I would say I have chronic pain because people wouldn't understand the nuance about persistence. So that's only my private thing that I've shared with the whole world now. But they would characterize me as being sick. "Oh, I'm so sorry you're sick." And, I let that go for a little while. And then I thought, that does not sit well with me because what you think matters, what you say matters, and what you do matters. What you believe shapes what you think, shapes what you do. Or did I miss? Anyway, say and
Shapes
do.
what you are.
Yeah. And then that shapes what you are. And I hurt. I was dealing with this stuff. But when I say I'm sick, I have a cold or the flu or, something like that. This is a long-term situation for me. And if I thought of myself every day as being sick, in our North American uh, attitudes or atmosphere, being sick means you go to bed and you don't do anything, or somebody's got to take care of you. And that's not where I want to come from. I so I balk at it, and I'm rarely sick.
Well, Lynn, I am, you do as well, work in the research area. And
Yes.
so I am one of those people who have fought hard to be called a person with lived experience instead of a patient,
Hmm.
because I agree with you. This is
Hmm.
not an illness, it's a condition. And so I am the same thing. Identify myself as a person with lived experience. But you see, I got caught up in that sick thing when I had COVID
Yeah.
because I was sick. And so I kept convincing myself all summer when I couldn't get out of bed, it was okay to stay in bed because I was sick. But then I got to the point where I had to
Yeah.
stop, because once you get better, you start thinking clear. And then you have to get to the stage, well, I'm not sick anymore. Now I've got myself into a fibro flare.
Mm.
So I need to get out of this bed and I need to get moving, right? And so that's why I agree with you 100%. I do not identify as being a patient and I don't identify um, as being sick. And so
Mm.
I always, anything I write about fibromyalgia, I talk about people living with fibromyalgia. I do not say fibromyalgia patients. I don't do that because that is labeling us and being sick is a negative thing, right? And so if you're
Well, you
living
sure
with a
feel rotten.
condition, yeah, you do. But I
Yeah.
don't consider diabetic sick. I don't consider people with di diverse conditions. I don't consider them sick. They're not sick. That's who they are. And so that's fibromyalgia. That's who we are. We don't have an illness. So, and
Yeah.
again, words matter. I think
Mhm.
words matter a lot.
Mm.
And so I try to be careful with my words because words matter.
And others may not agree with us.
No,
I
that's
think
okay.
that, yeah, and that's perfectly okay. I think for me, making that distinction along with the persistent as opposed to chronic um, really helped me to be able to start looking for those ways that uh, um, the tools that I could use to help me be all I could be, and the ways that I could adapt my lifestyle,
Yes.
you
So,
know?
Lynn, you and I
Mm.
have a friend in common. She used to be an avid skier, skied with her family every weekend, and then she
Yes.
developed fibromyalgia. Being a very positive person, she looked around and thought, okay, I can't ski with my family anymore. I don't want them feeling bad that I'm home here by myself. So I need to figure out what is it that I always love doing that I never have time to do. And
Mhm.
so she thought, oh, I love knitting. I should get back to my knitting. And now she's an award-winning knitter and
She
teaches
is.
knitting, designs knitting patterns,
Yes.
and she's
Yes.
the very best she can be. And
Mhm.
so that's taking a negative and turning it into a positive. And so um, I, yeah, and it's great because that's what that's what I like to think of myself is turning a negative into a positive. And it's hard.
Mhm.
It's not easy. I'm sure she did
No.
miss weekends like when she used to be skiing with them. And it's a bonding experience with her kids and her husband and she had to sacrifice that, but she didn't see it as a sacrifice. She saw it as an opportunity.
Yes. And I had the same thing happen with things that I had planned to do as a young person, just starting into a career. And it was hard to was hard to let go of some of those dreams. But what I found was I just adapted them, shifted them, and not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but there were ways to be relevant in the world and starting step by step to take back the personal power that fibromyalgia can completely obliterate for some people. It did for me. And
Mhm.
gradually taking that back requires courage, bravery that we don't think we have. But you know what? We really do. We really do. And I'm sitting here as living proof. And you and I do the work that we do um, because trying we've tried to move the obstacles and pave the path so that um, this adaptation, the access to resources for self-management are easier to get for
Yes.
the people who went through what we did. They're there now, and we move forward, um, maybe at a slower pace, and we want them to have the opportunity to do it faster than we did so they can get on with their life,
Yes. And
knowing
yeah,
yeah, knowing that you and I, um, even with all the learning we've done, even with all the pathways we've taken or created, that we still have challenges, but life has challenges too. And it's about pivoting. It's about adapting. It's about finding, it's like water. It's about finding the way through to what it is we want to do.
thank you, Lynn. And as I think we can wrap up here, I just want to say too, I mean, I look at fibromyalgia sometimes as a gift because, and I know people hearing this will not agree with that, but
Look at my face.
wonderful, I've met so many wonderful people
Yeah.
as a result. And most of my friends have chronic pain or fibromyalgia now. And yeah, it just opened up a new world. And it's a different world, but it's a new world. So I
You,
like
you know
to
what,
think I
Trudy?
embrace that change.
Good for you. You know the gift I think that I received from this is twofold. First of all, I think as the younger person, things were more black and white for me. And living with persistent pain and um, and fibromyalgia, uh, I learned that things aren't black and white. That that the person sitting across from you may be having struggles. It might be
Hmm.
invisible. You don't know if it's a health condition or a mental health, like a mental health condition, a physical health condition, or life circumstances. You just don't know. So judging that book by its cover um, isn't the way to go. And so I
No,
think I'm more tolerant that way. I stop and take a breath and think, I hope. And so I feel that living with the disease of chronic pain, the condition of fibromyalgia, has taught me to be more tolerant and more accepting because I experienced the other end of the spectrum, the stigma, the judgment. And I really hope I hope I can do better.
That's so true, Lynn. I'm thinking back to when I first was diagnosed and I was younger and everything was black and white. And like you, I find myself um considering other things now. Like you don't know what that person's going through. So I try not to judge and I try to be more tolerant and you don't know what the person's, even if I know what they're going through, you don't know what kind of pain day they're having or what has happened
Mhm.
to them to make them a little crankier today or whatever. So it's
Right.
uh it's great life lesson, that's for sure. Certainly opens your eyes. And I find I don't see things in black and white anymore. I see things in a much more rainbow spectrum, and even my own life, I don't see it as black and white anymore. And that's a good thing. I think I was narrow-minded and I am the type of person that plans things, so my plans were too rigid and fibromyalgia kind of kicked me in the ass and it's like, yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. My plans we're just getting here today. I had to pivot and be flexible, right? So, like I said, I'm
Yes.
sitting in the middle of a uh, fire circle, Mi'kmaq'ki fire circle, so that I have an
Amazing.
open sky for my Starlink. So you
And you
just,
know what? The end of our conversation is really preparing us for our next one that's
yes,
going to be dealing with um, disability and what that means to you and me, and others, but just discussing moving forward again with fibromyalgia. And
yes. And the guilt
so,
associated with that, right?
yes.
So yes, everyone,
So next time.
yes, December, our Fibro Chat. Our next Fibro Chat will be December. Thank you all for coming. If I knew the date, I'd tell you, but I can't think of it off
Oh,
the top of
it's
my
the
head.
3rd of December. That's why I'm
Thank
here.
you. Thank
I'm
you.
your I'm your
And
partner
that
in crime
is
here.
That's right. That's the day of persons with living with disabilities, right? I think it's a little different name than that, but gets the point across. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate it. And it was so nice chatting with you, Lynn, always. And I'm happy
Always.
you enjoyed your trip and had a wonderful time.
Mhm.
And I
And the
have to
conference
say,
was good too.
and the conference was great. Yes. And I'm here enjoying fall colors, and it's absolutely beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful places in Canada, this park. And it's amazing how they've preserved it over the years. I haven't been here probably in about 20 years, and it's better than ever. So I'm
Enjoy.
going to enjoy my day among the trees. So take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye
Bye
bye.
now.